أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المنتجبين سيما على بقية الله في الأرضين إمام زماننا حجة الله القائم المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف ولعن الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we are doing this class and this conversation. This is about Bidayatul Hikma. And this Bidayatul Hikma is a book written by Allama Tabatabai, and it is about wujud and its type, meaning existence and things related to it, which basically then leads us to the creator, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the wujud, who is the existence, which is mawjud, which is the wajib, which is the essential, without which no other existence can exist. And how do we come to these kind of understanding, and how do we come to these kind of proofs? So as you know, we have been doing 3 weeks of Bidaya, 1 week of Dua Simaat. And in our last conversation about Dua Simaat, we had gone into the conversation of Fitra, meaning the innate and intuitive nature of human being. And we had said at that time and in there that although we have proof of Allah and proof of God, we can do that. But we should also understand that it is intuitive for a human being, for us to have a belief in the higher entity. Why? Because we need to understand that we all intuitively know that we are not independent. Instead, we are dependent entities. Meaning, there is no such thing in our life in which we are independent. Does not exist. Even if we are breathing, we are dependent on air, which we did not create. Even in our self-existence, we did not create ourselves. And obviously, our parents also did not create themselves. So creation is not a process that we do intrinsically, inherently, and by ourselves. We are always having, to ask who created. So if there is no self-sustenance, if there is no entity about which we cannot ask that, oh, who created? Meaning, if there is no entity that is already present from which the creation would come, it is obvious then that then no creation can happen. Because for each and every creation, we are going to ask this question: who created it? Who created it? Who created it? So if that becomes what we call tasalsul, a perpetual question, or it becomes a door, which is a circular argument, either way, that would be something that would not lead us to any answer. And therefore, in order for us to have a definitive answer, we need to have a creator which requires no creator. Without this, that would not be possible. And therefore, the nature of that creator will be different from the nature of created. Otherwise, it would be created by themselves. And we had this lengthy discussion, which unfortunately, the technology did not did not help us during that conversation, and it deleted it. So probably didn't like the conversation or something. So I have to repeat. I have to re-record it again. But alhamdulillah, I have it in writing. So I will re-record it over this weekend and will post it, inshallah. So that is one thing. Second thing is, uh, the most important thing, therefore, is for us to understand now when we are coming towards reasoning. We, in our initial classes, we did a generic understanding of contradiction, the concept of contradiction, tanaquz, in Urdu or Arabic or Farsi, but in English, contradiction. So today, the concept of contradiction, because we have gone into issues related to motion and movement and so on and so forth in our last conversation a bit. So I would like to, this is the time to introduce that concept, because without the concept of contradiction, we can never ever understand that how to compare things properly. How do we know what is right, what is wrong? How do we decide? It is an intuitive concept, but it is also a concept which is many a times abused and misused and mispresented. And a lot of times, things that are not contradiction are presented as contradiction. And therefore, poor judgments are made because of poor application and poor understanding of the concepts. So the concepts of contradiction is important, and for us, we need to understand. So, uh, all right, what is a contradiction first? That's the first thing. What is a contradiction? So, first of all, it is a form of argument. What is an argument? Argument is basically a, a statement. Oh, so for example, I say, this is Ali, this is Bilal, this is Alex, this is Nima, this is, you know, Hassan, so on and so forth. So when I say this is, I am asserting something, or I can say, this is not Hassan, this is not Nima, and so on and so forth. So I'm either asserting something or I'm negating something, which is again a different kind, a negative assertion. So I'm either asserting positively or I am asserting negatively. This assertion process is, in a way, an argument, because each of such argument may be true, may be false. Yeah. You know, I may be making a correct statement, or I may be making an incorrect statement. So, so this is therefore a statement, and each statement is a form of argument. Brother Ali will know this intuitively, since he's a lawyer. Whenever we make a statement, that statement is open for scrutiny, right? You said this, therefore we can argue about it. Correct? So that is that. Okay. So uh, now, two statements when they are made, or any statement when it is compared to the other statement, can be either true or false. So, for example, I can say, there is. Well, there this. What is time right now? What is the time? 7:41. This is night in Ohio, and this is not night in Ohio. Both of them cannot be true. Both of them cannot be false. Since our issue is Ohio is the same, night is the same, so it either is or is not. Both cannot be. But under what circumstances? Right? And that is the thing. So this is what we need to understand. So if we say both cannot be true and both cannot be false, you can turn around and say, well, that is not true. Right? That is, we can change certain conditions, and in that case, the thing may change. So, but if we say at the same time, right now, then this both cannot be true, both cannot be false. So, this would be a contradiction. A contradiction would be when you negate what you have just said in a way where certain things are common, certain things are constant, certain conditions exist, and these conditions are important to know. Okay. I will post this in the group, these conditions, so you don't have to write it unless you just want to take notes. That's fine, but I just want you to know that I am going to post. Yeah. So previously, if you remember, we just talked about time, space, and context in our initial discussion of aqaid. We basically generically, bundled it together. But since we are going to kind of open up our conversation, we are going to be more daqiq, more accurate, and more to the point. So that if you ever ran into argument with anyone, or if you were arguing yourself, if you ran into a situation where a question came to you, then you should be able to solve it correctly and completely. And that is therefore important. So there are 8 scenarios, 8 conditions. How many? 8. 8 conditions in which a contradiction should have commonality, should be present in that scenario, should be common to the argument. What? For example, it should have common subject, common topic, common, conversational topic being discussed. So, for example, if I am saying it is night in Ohio, then I cannot say it is day in Ohio. These are not contradictions. So night has to go with night. The topic of discussion, the of conversation should be exactly the same. You cannot change one and the other, and then it will not be. So because one can say, oh, well, I mean, if it is not night, if it is daytime, oh, okay, yeah. This is not a contradiction. It could be day in Ohio too. It could be night, it could be day. Right? But these are not contradiction to each other. When there is night, there is no day. When there is day, there is no night. No problem. Right? So both side of these statements can be true. There could be night in Ohio. There could be day in Ohio. Both could be true. Both cannot be false, but one can be true, while the other can be false. But both can be true in its due time. All right? Depending on when I state it. Second, the thing I'm talking about, like I said, night. So thing I'm referring to, which is Ohio. For example, you cannot say, oh, there is night in Ohio and there is no night in Florida. Well, we're talking, it is very possible. You change Ohio to Florida. So there can be night in Ohio and daytime in Florida. I mean, or Hawaii for that purpose, and so on and so forth. So both the subject and the predicate, they have to be the same. The subject and the object, they both have to be the same. You cannot change them. So these are 1 and 2. We call it in Persian Mawzu and Mahmud. Or in Urdu, the same thing. Mawzu and Mahmud. Something which is the subject matter, and the second, to which the subject matter is related to. Both of these entities should be the same. Third, the time frame. The time frame has to be the same. You cannot say it is daytime at 7:30 a.m. in Ohio and there is daytime at 7:30. There is nighttime or daytime at 7:45 p.m. in Ohio. One would be true, one would be false. But Both can be true. Or if there's night time in 7:45 p.m. I mean, why is it wrong? It is correct. There is daytime at 7:30 a.m. So both can be. So both are true statements. There is nothing false about it. So they are not contradictions. So the time should be the same. So this would be the third one. Fourth, the place should be the same. So you cannot say, again, like I said, you cannot change the place. Say, here I am present. There I am not present. Well, I mean, if you are present, these are two separate places. This can be true, that can be true. Okay. Again, let me refresh and remind. In contradiction, one side of the argument is true, the other statement is false. Both cannot be true, both cannot be false. Let me bring an example. One, if I say I am here and I am at the same time in the same space, etc., I am not here. So if I am here is true, then not here is false. If the not here is true, then the here is false. Both are not true, both are not false. If I am not here, I have to be somewhere. And if I am somewhere else, then I'm not here. Okay. So one side of the statement is always true, the other side of the statement is always false. Both cannot be true and both cannot be false. Again, so that is contradiction. Contradiction is when we are comparing two statements side by side as one entity, and we are comparing one side of the statement to the other side of the statement, two separate statements, and we are saying how are they related to each other, how they are linked to each other. इनका आपस में इर्तिबात क्या है? How they are connected to each other. So if both of them are true and both of them are false, they are not contradiction. In contradiction, the relationship is both cannot be true, both cannot be false. One has to be true, the other has to be false. Has to be false. Okay, this is important for us to understand, and we will talk about a little bit later more. So we said, in order for contradiction to exist between two statements, we need to have 8 conditions present. Okay, and which was what we said: the subject, the subject matter, the whatever it is related to, that is second. Third is time. Fourth is space. Now, you cannot say, for the third is bil quwwa and bil fail, meaning the potential and the actuality of things. So, for example, you cannot say Alex is smart in actuality. But then you cannot say Alex is in potentially Alex is smart, but actually he is not smart. These two are not contradiction, because people can in actuality be one way and have a potential to be another way, right? So it happens all the time. We are all potential knowledgeable people. Potentially we can get knowledge, a lot of knowledge, but in actuality we may not have a lot of knowledge, right? It's very likely. So there is no contradiction here, right? So if we say, however, oh, Alex is potentially smart, but Alex is potentially not smart, now that's contradiction. Or if I said Alex is actually smart, and Alex is actually not smart, that's a contradiction. Okay, so this is the fifth thing. Sixth, so for example, the totality and you cannot say all of United States is fertile, right? You cannot say uh, and you cannot say so you cannot say all of United States or let me phrase it correctly. You cannot say United States is fertile. Okay, uh, some of it, but then you cannot turn around and say, oh, United States is not fertile, all of it. Both can be true. Some of it is fertile, and all of it may not be fertile. Right? Some of it may be fertile land, while all of it may not be fertile land. There will be land that may be barren. There may be land that may be desert. Right? So in order for something to be contradiction, you cannot create some of one thing to the totality of the other thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Why can it not be the reverse? Why can you not say some of it
I
is
know.
infertile?
We'll come to it. That's why I went 2 times back and forth. Okay, no. I know. That is why I 2 times went back and forth, and I held myself back. And but I brought some before I brought the total. Right. So if you are talking about sum of something before and then comparing it to the totality of the other, right? That cannot be a contradiction. I'm specific about it because remember, we are talking specifics right now, right? We are not talking generics. So specific is that when you are talking about some before and the same thing, you're talking about the totality of it afterwards, that would not be contradiction. Correct? Okay. Yeah. Now I know that. Okay. I'm aware of it.
So, just to follow up, does that mean then, like, I can't say, like, my hand is cold, but then say, like, all of me is warm?
Right. So if you say your hand is cold, right, and all of you are warm, then hand is your part, right? Then it will not be true.
Thanks.
It would be contradiction, right? You just contradicted it. So, okay. Then the conditions, you know, you cannot say the conditions have to be same. So, for example, if Nima worked hard, he will get good marks in GRE. Inshallah. So, right? But if I change it to if Nima did not work hard, he will not get good marks in GRE. Well, there is no contradiction here. So the condition in contradiction has to be the same. So if you are using conditional statements, you cannot change the conditions. The condition has to be the same. Okay? This is important. Last, the number 8. So the first was the subject matter. Second thing was whatever is related to the subject matter. Third thing was time. Fourth thing was space. Fifth thing was potential and actuality, that kind of condition. Sixth was the totality and the part of it, being a part of it, and having the totality of it. So in which we had says we had said some of US is fertile while entirety of US is not fertile. That's the relationship we're talking about. The seventh is the conditions should be the same, and last, which is 8, that if we have additional attachment to our argument, they cannot be different. So, for example, if we say 4 is not the half, and if we say 4 is half, so the additional component of this 4 should be the same. So, for example, we cannot say 4 is not the half, 4 is the half of 8, and 4 is not the half of 10. Well, yeah, then both of them are true. 4 is not the half of 10, right? And 4 is half of 8, right? So the whatever is the attachment that you're talking about, the additional component of the argument, what you're adding it to, what you're linking it to, should be the same. So it would be, however, a contradiction if we said 4 is half of 8 and 4 is not half of 8, while we have kept all the rest of the 7 conditions intact. Get it? So now, and we are going to come to the 3 situations that should be that have to be different in a contradiction. So 8 that have to be the same, 3 that have to be different. Okay, 3 that have to be different. Okay, so if, for example, it is now coming to what you were talking about, Adnan, which is if you say all human beings are poets, but then you say some human beings are not poets. You know, that's the one you were talking about, right? That's a contradiction. Meaning they have to be different in their totality and partiality in the reverse order. So if you're talking about totality of something and partiality of same thing, right? Then they have to be, then, and if they are different, then they will be tanaquz. They will be contradiction. Okay? So but these are, you just change the situation. You got warmer. So you change the situation. You increase the degree. You changed it. Right? Okay. So the nature of the argument, the state of the argument should be such that one has to negate the other. They cannot be that. So you cannot say, for example, Nima is good at this time with all the 7 intact, and Nima is good at this time. Both of them are the same argument. They're no different from each other. Right? Well, if they are no different from each other, how can you compare them? There is no comparison. The only thing you can say, well, you're repeating yourself. It's just repetition. Right? So that is important for us to understand. So they have to be different. Meaning one is a positive while the other is a negative argument. Right? If the first one is totality, the other one has to be impartial in the sense that, like we said, that if we cannot say some of United States is fertile, right? And all of United States is not fertile. That can, but now if we said all of United States is fertile, and then we said some of United States is not fertile, that's a problem. Because now this all and some, this sum is negating the totality. So when you have partial argument on the subsequent side and the total argument in the beginning, that will be contradiction. That's one of the conditions of contradiction that we are, if we come into that place. Now, last but not the least, like I said before, one has to be negative, the other argument has to be positive. Okay? So that is that. Both cannot be positive. Then that's the same state. Both cannot be negative, because then you are repeating the same state. If you say today is cold and today is cold, that's repetition of the same argument. So then that's one argument is negative, the other argument is positive. Hot is negation of the cold. Cold is negation of the right? Right. So that means today is cold and today is hot, right? Is depends on if you are using all the same conditions the same, then you will see it will become a contradiction. But if you that those conditions are different, then it will not be a contradiction. You can try it. You can test it. If you say today is cold, today is hot, right? Go and apply these 8 conditions. You will see if you keep them constant, it will become a contradiction. Okay. So that is that. Why is it important for us to have a contradiction-based argument and understanding? Why do we need to? Because contradiction is where absolute proofs and disproofs happen. That is why it is important. Contradiction is an argument where science, math, or any other reason, whenever we go and we want to either prove something or disprove something in absolute terms, we adhere to this argumentation. That is why it is important. So, for example, if somebody were to come and say, right, oh, something is causal, has causality, and then say causality is eternal, right? If we analyze it, we will understand that this is a contradiction. Why? Causality, it means something came into existence in a time and a space. And eternal, by definition, means that the existence existed regardless of the time and space. Right? That's why it is eternal. Okay. So regardless of time and space, it is existing. Doesn't matter what time, what space. The entity is present. So it would be a contradiction by relationship of extension. Well, the one we said, like 4 is half of 8. We cannot say 4, that would not be contradiction. So, but we cannot say 4 is not the half of 8. Right? So it would imply that. So if we say something is causal, and by the way, it's also not dependent on cause, that would be a contradiction. So this ties in directly to the proof of God. Contradiction ties in directly to the proof of God. And any entity that is in existence, and if we want to assert the nature of it, what it is and what it is not, we go to the argument of contradiction. Okay, that is why we need to learn contradiction. I will be posting these 8 plus 3 headers with examples over the weekend with this talk, so that everybody has a clarity of understanding. If there are some ambiguities in this talk, those examples should be able to clarify them. If there remains further difficulties, we will come again and we will address them. The understanding of contradiction is key to understanding everything, is key to understanding the proof of God. If we understood contradiction correctly, then we will be talking about, for example, ideologies of mechanical materialism and dialectic materialism, which is communism and socialism. And we will be easily able to point out where they made a mistake in their statements, where they went wrong, and how is it when they negate God, they are actually technically wrong. How is it that they are wrong? We can very quickly and very easily prove it and discard them and move towards the actual proof. Inshallah, we will further belabor on it in next. So understanding of contradiction is key, and I know I sound like a broken record, but believe me, it is a key understanding, and we will, inshallah, master this thing. Next time, I will be more interactive, so kindly be prepared to be more interactive. Why? Because I will be throwing arguments with you on you, and I will then ask you individually, what do you think? Is it a contradiction? Not a contradiction. Why do you think this is a contradiction? And why do you think this is not a contradiction? It is important. Once you have this exercise done in your mind and you are able to absorb this, you will see things will become very easy. Very easy. Analyzing it will be easy. Okay. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Any questions?
I had a question about if we could return to the part versus totality.
Yes.
I don't follow why the ordering matters. Like, why is it that one?
If I say some of United States is fertile, and then I say all of United States is not fertile, that would be a contradiction, correct?
Yes.
If I say all of United States is fertile, right, and some of United States is not fertile, that would still be a contradiction, correct?
Yes.
Right? But if I said this, okay, let me, and that's where I was going to with you, because I didn't, if I said, that some of United States is fertile, huh? But then I said, however, all of United States is not fertile. Where is the contradiction?
But that still has to be a contradiction, no? Because you just said that all of the United States is infertile.
I said some of the United States is fertile, right?
You said some is fertile and all is infertile?
I said all of it is not fertile.
Oh, not all of it is fertile. So
Yeah,
you're saying some of it is fertile.
yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Get it?
Yes.
That's why. That's why. Okay. So you need to know your wording, and that's what I'm trying to say to you. The point I'm belaboring is for you guys need to understand that under these circumstances, accuracy matters. Accuracy counts. So when you are accurate in your statement, then you will not be deviated from the truth and understanding and making a judgment. But if you get deviated and don't pay attention to the details, okay, you will slip through it. Okay, and just like you just noticed it yourself, and that's the point. You just belabored my point. Okay, that we need to understand these entities accurately. You know, the communist theory comes in and says, oh, the society is always in thesis and antithesis, and synthesis is a contradiction. And so it's always in a dialectic movement, meaning there are contradictions in society, and these contradictions in society propel the society towards a new form all the time. Okay. However, what they are calling contradiction is not contradiction, is opposition. And their whole argument is false, fake news. Okay. Why? Because they did not pay attention to the conditions of contradiction. Yeah, we will talk about opposition and contradiction later because I just wanted to lay down the conditions of contradiction today. That's okay. Okay. It's, I'm being asked to lay down the differentiate between. So, whenever you have any of these 8 conditions different, so for example, you say there is night in Ohio, day in Florida, or you can write that means so you change the time, or you can say there is night in Ohio, not night in Florida, right? So you changed the place. This is opposition, not contradiction. Meaning Florida is opposed to Ohio in terms of day and night. When there is day here, there is night there. When there is night here, there is day there. They oppose each other in this. Both are true. There's nothing false about it, right? So whenever you change one of these 8 conditions that I just mentioned, it becomes opposition. It's no more a contradiction. Oppositions can exist, right? Opposition can exist. There's no problem. So, for example, you can be, uh, uh, having a good time at 8 o'clock and not having a good time at 9 o'clock. What's the problem? 8 o'clock is a different time. 9 o'clock is a different time. You may be having good time in Ohio, not a good time in Washington, D.C. for obvious reasons. You know. So, for example, right? So, but then the space is different, right? You may not be having a good time in when you are in context of seeing US news, and maybe having a good time while you are seeing news in the context of international news outside US media. I'm saying because news is the same, but its context change. One was US news, the other is outside, right? So if you change any of the above, then it becomes they come opposed to each other. They don't contradict each other. Both of them can be true. Both of them can be forced. You may not have good time in either place. You may have good time in one place or the other. Right? So that's my point. Right? So that's one is opposition, the other is contradiction. Okay. So oppositions can exist, and many a times people confuse opposition and contradiction with each other. They call opposition as contradiction or contradiction as opposition. And then when they apply it, they have messed up results. Okay. Do you understand? You guys understood? Any problem? All right. No? So okay. So we are clear on the contradictions, 8 conditions. Again, I will send you guys, and then we touched a little bit about opposition. We will further talk about these things, and then I'll be throwing things at you, and we'll go from there. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام
وعليكم
ورحمة
السلام
الله وبركاته.
جزاكم الله خير إنك العسكري.
You're welcome, inshallah. We will, inshallah. These are important things. Once you understand, we will start having fun with them. Once these are
Okay.
dry, basic, hardcore topics are understood, the dry part of it, the juicy part of it will come. Okay, that's all.
السلام عليكم. خدا حافظ.